In 1854, an epidemic hit the city of London, ravaging it and spreading like wildfire, leaving death in its wake. The doctors at the time had a name for this, for they had seen it before: cholera. However, what they didn't know was exactly what it was and how it got around. The most common theory at the time was that it spread through something called miasma, arising from the banks of the heavily polluted Thames River. Some things never change. A likely conclusion to come to, taking into account the archaic understandings of hygiene and pathogens at the time. However, one man, unconvinced by the theory of miasma, set out to challenge it. Dr. John Snow, no, not that one. Yeah, that one. Dr. Snow didn't believe that miasma was responsible for the cholera outbreaks which were occurring all over London, or the rest of the world at that time, so he set off to hunt down the cause. He started mapping out where the outbreaks were occurring, and he noticed that they were centralized around wells. He continued to search and search. The final key which helped him break the metaphorical lock was an outbreak that was occurring in Broad Street when a woman washed her baby's diaper in the drinking well. Wait, what? Dr. Snow published his findings in 1849, and soon after that, it became accepted. However, too late for anything to be done for this outbreak, which had already caused the death of 11,000 people. On the 12th of January 2008, Haiti was hit by a massive magnitude 7 earthquake, striking the city hard along the creaking and subpar infrastructure of the developing nation. While the country struggled to recover, its already broken water treatment system became the home of an old enemy. Through the winter, the bacteria's growth was slow, opening a window of opportunity to repair the damage. However, resources were scarce and nothing could be done. After 9 months of growing, it reached critical mass. As the sewage system began to mix with the country's drinking water, the bacteria began to spread, and in September, it struck. And in the following 3 months, it resulted in the death of 8,111 people. On July 26th in West Bengal, India, 2 rivers, the Ganga and the Mahandra, flooded, resulting in the displacement of 4,000 people in a tiny village of Malda. On the 15th of August, as the flood waters receded, a case of diarrhea was detected in the block of Buttignachar of Manachawak. Within 2 weeks, it had spread through the district, affecting 15 blocks and 2 municipalities. This epidemic was pushed along by the lack of water treatment and hygiene in the village, a feature of it being a village. The local water wells were surrounded by stagnant, polluted water, and waste was often tossed into a nearby river, which was sometimes used for cleaning as well. As the epidemic spread, it peaked in the second week of September and continued until it concluded in the middle of October. It had led to the death of 216 people. Cholera plagues developing nations and follows natural disasters, as developing nations don't have the resources to secure their water safety, as well as being unable to educate their population on the dangers of certain unhygienic practices, especially in rural areas. Cholera often maintains a presence, and when natural disasters hit, cholera hits with double the strength. Cholera enters our body through our mouths when we take in food or water that has been contaminated by fecal matter of someone with cholera. If you've had cholera before, let me just offer you my deepest apologies for what you've just heard. The bacteria travels down our gastrointestinal tract or digestive tract and makes its home in the walls of the small intestines. It causes the excretion of immense amounts of water and electrolytes, classified as secretory diarrhea. The patient is severely dehydrated with an extensive electrolyte imbalance, possibly killing within hours. However, with the correct treatment, this is entirely avoidable and can be reduced to minor nuisance. This explains why cholera is seen as a pestilence following natural disasters in developing areas. Only when proper healthcare facilities are unavailable or water treatment facilities have been destroyed, combined with the difficulty to get clean water, does cholera become an epidemic, and does it kill? Once the cholera bacteria enters the intestines, it begins to release its mode of attack, a toxin imaginatively named cholera toxin. The cholera toxin is made up of 2 subunits, an A subunit and a B subunit. Again with the naming. There are 5 B proteins surrounding the middle A protein. The B protein interacts with the GM1 receptor of the intestinal cells, allowing it to infiltrate the cell, where it either travels to the Golgi body, which is a cellular organ acting as the exporting and importing hub, or it travels directly to the endoplasmic reticulum, which is the factory of the cell. When I say or, we don't know which one it takes. It could be either or both. If it does travel to the Golgi body, it enters by interacting with a receptor called T-snares. Here it then enters a vesicle and begins its journey to the endoplasmic reticulum. Upon reaching the endoplasmic reticulum, it undergoes a change to carry out a job. It begins to interact with a protein called protein disulfide isomerase, or PDI for short. This protein begins to unravel it and unmake it, but another protein called ERP72, which is classified as a PDI-like protein, starts to re-ravel it, and the final result is that the subunit that makes up the protein breaks down, leaving the A subunit alone, in a form to carry out its job. You see, the A subunit isn't just a core to hold all the B subunits together. In fact, it is the primary acting part of the toxin that does the job. It makes the journey towards the endoplasmic reticulum to remove the B subunit, which it only needs to enter the cell. From here it can begin to carry out its job. The only problem left is escaping into the cytosol. The cholera toxin has a specific structure on it called the K-del motif. This is a protein which is usually added by the endoplasmic reticulum to keep it in itself, and even return it if it is accidentally exported. However, the A subunit has this pre-installed and uses it to stay in the endoplasmic reticulum for as long as it needs to stay inside. Finally, when the toxin has decided it's all grown up and needs to ruin your life, it interacts with a protein called derelin-1, which it releases on the PDI and it moves towards either channel HRD1 or SEC61. Once it has entered the cytosol, it moves towards the enzyme adenyl cyclase. This is a very important enzyme, and I'm sure of this because it's one of the few I actually recognize. 5 years of med school, well spent. The job of adenyl cyclase is to create CMP, or cyclic AMP, or cyclic adenosine monophosphate. This is a messenger and is used to trigger many different pathways. In this case, it activates a channel which pumps chloride ions out of the cell, creating a charge imbalance in the intestines, attracting the positive ions to neutralize the charge. As sodium moves, it brings water with it, and soon the body is having electrolytes and water leached into the intestines to be removed. Along with this, the sodium chloride isn't taken up, compounding the problem. To give you an idea of just the sheer scale of the toxin's strength, 25 milligrams can cause loss of 25 liters of water. However, by taking oral rehydration solution and drinking clean water along with antibiotics, cholera can be neutered to a much less harmful version. In this treatment, you can begin to see why cholera used to claim so many lives before antibiotics and hygiene standards, and remains the bane of many developing nations and appears after natural disasters. It is exactly these situations where such a simple disease becomes so hard to beat, because cholera has such a simple cure. It's often reported only in situations and times where it is favorable. Very rarely do epidemics occur where these conditions don't appear, because if it does, it is contained to one person and can simply be self-medicated easily. As cholera reaps souls, we have worked to use cholera to our advantage. The B subunit is great for entering cells, and this has begun being used by researchers to create vaccines that can elicit a response from humans quickly. It can act within 72 hours and increase the number of immune cells and keep immunity for a long time. It can act quickly because this is the exact function of the B subunit. Along with this, the GM1 is widely distributed throughout the human body. The key to this is that the B subunit isn't actually toxic. Remember, it is the A subunit that's toxic. So this leaves the B subunit open to our exploitation. And after all, why shouldn't we? If you enjoyed the video or learned something new, like, subscribe, and leave a comment. See you next time.